Yep, okay. All right, welcome everybody to the Abington Conservation Commission meeting. Today is May 13th, 2025, and the time is 6:30 p.m. So I'm gonna move things around a little bit here because I understand, is it Karina? Or I'm sorry, Tarina. She's in Las Vegas. Are you there?
Yes. Yes.
Can we turn the volume up?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Good. Awesome. Okay, so I understand there was a site walk that was done?
Yeah, Alex and I went out last week, kind of went through, Tarina met us on site. What she had done was kind of the extent of what she's doing. One tree got taken down, said it was dead. It was right around kind of the 100-foot mark. Cleared out some dead stuff, some brush, things like that. There's some wood chips there currently kind of piled up that she would like to spread out. She doesn't want to do anything else on the site, just kind of wanted to get that initial cleanup, some felled trees from neighbors and stuff like that. And, you know, wants to kind of stop it there and leave it.
I actually said to Nick when we went out there, I said, if I just walked on this site unknowing, I would not even think there were wetlands there. There is the remnants of a swale.
Yeah, the intermittent,
Yeah,
the day we went, it was bone dry.
Yeah.
When I went out a few weeks ago, it had some water in it, but at this time it was dry, so.
Yeah. So I don't think any further action's needed with her.
Okay.
We told her you can continue by hand cleaning up. She is gonna bring a machine in, but it's gonna stay at least 100 feet at the fence, you know, just to drag the heavy brush and stuff out of there that's already down on the ground. And spread out some of the chips. But it's not a problem as far as I'm concerned.
Great.
So we had a cease and desist, we didn't have an enforcement order.
Correct.
Yeah, which that, I mean, it was only signed by me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sounds like the board's comfortable with me just lifting it.
yeah,
I think Tarina understand if she was going to do anything
Right.
further back there, at least an RDA, everything like that.
and we actually told her that, you know.
Okay.
but,
Okay.
Was there an issue with the neighbors cutting down
Yeah.
trees that went into her property?
And the neighbor met us out there
Okay.
and kind of said it was a big misunderstanding.
I was gonna say, it seemed like they were reasonable,
Yeah,
settled it last time.
everything seemed to be worked out, so.
That's good.
What she's doing is actually improving the situation, so. I'm good with him lifting it. Do we need a motion, a vote on that for you to lift?
I don't think you guys didn't vote to put it on.
Yeah,
It was just a
that's true.
cease and desist from me, so.
Okay.
Okay.
I just opened it up in case anyone's.
Is there anyone in the audience who has anything to say about this property? It's at 680 Summer Street? Nope. Okay, bringing it back to the board.
I don't know if Tarina had anything she wanted to add.
Tarina, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I just want to thank you all so much for taking the time to come out and help us resolve everything. But nothing else, Tad, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great. So if anything comes up in the future within 100 feet of the wetland, then feel free to call us, contact us, can do an RDA. But otherwise, I think you're good. Yeah, I
Wonderful,
don't think we
wonderful.
can- Okay. All right. Well, enjoy Vegas.
Enjoy your trip.
Okay. All right, what should we do next up? Let's do 0 Summer Street because they're on Zoom, and I understand that Zoom
Yeah.
can be tricky. So SEO 840565, discussion on environmental monitoring reports, project located at 0 Summer Street. So Nick, you went on a site walk today?
Yeah. Zero Summers put forth, the order of conditions calls for the environmental monitoring until the site's stabilized. They put forth, they believe the site is stabilized. Paving's all done, work is now condensed to the paving area. The one thing left is the curbing. I mean, in my opinion, once that curbing is in, the site's pretty well protected from everything. As long as no other work on outside of that area that support lifting the environmental monitoring.
What about that detention pond?
That's where all the water on the site's going now.
And it's been hydroseeded.
It has been hydroseeded.
It has been
Yeah, the
hydroseeded.
down banks that would have been hydroseeded, start work on stabilizing it. Another thing on site, month, maybe a little more than that ago, they got a new site super, I don't know the title. Head guy was on site every day, who honestly seems excellent. He's very on top of it. He's around the whole site every day. It's been an improvement dealing with him.
When did that happen?
Maybe 6 weeks ago, a month, I'm not sure. Jeffs could probably speak.
I don't have the exact timeline, but that's probably accurate. Six to 8 weeks ago, I would say.
Yeah, when Pat came on.
I'm still seeing issues just going through these reports, and, we had the meeting sometime in March after, let's see, around March 9th or so, maybe the 12th. And then looking at the environmental monitoring reports, there was a report of a sinking wattle, and it took 6 days for that to get fixed. After, there were 4 times where the environmental monitor talked to the person on site, and then there was another where there was wind damage to silt fence, and it took 4 days to get fixed, despite the environmental monitor saying 3 times that there's an issue.
Since they are regular reports, I just wanted to comment on that. While there was some damage, I just wanted to note that it didn't impact the function at that point. So it was noted not necessarily as an immediate repair, but I had brought it to their attention in the event that it did become an issue.
Hi. It's me, Jean.
Hi, Jean.
Hi. I did briefly look at the 2 reports that we just got today. They were just sent, I don't know the time. But my concern is that even though these issues were brought to the attention and we didn't have major issues, we do have a lot of rain events that kind of pop up here, there, and everywhere, like the storm that just dropped like an inch of rain a couple of days ago. I would hope that they would jump on these things and be proactive versus being reactive. So I'm not quite confident with not having the environmental monitor stop just yet. We're also getting reports late. I thought we addressed that a couple of months back.
If I may on that,
Sorry, there's a lot of reverb in this Zoom meeting.
it's tough. I agree.
It's brutal.
Well, I'm good to kind of speak now. So as far as I'm aware, since we had the March 9th meeting or whenever exactly that was, there were a couple recommendations that Vertex had that didn't fall within the violation category. We fixed all of those within a couple days, and we didn't actually have any violations as far as I'm aware in any of the reporting. And that said, our request to go to away from the monitoring based on the stabilization as it's outlined in the order conditions, we would obviously still do, we're beholden to the SWIP plan. So wherever there's a rain event that called for it, Vertex would be out there to do they're reporting for that as well. So regardless, that would be consistent throughout the end of the project.
What's your thoughts?
I just want to say, I mean, to their credit, I feel like they did really clean it up. I mean,
Yeah.
the reports that were coming out barely didn't have much of a line of violation, and if they're paid.
I was out there today with Nick, and we walked the whole site. I'm definitely, well, what's your thoughts on this?
Again, for me, once the curbing's in, all the water on site's being
Yeah,
taken where it should go. I think it would be good to have one last, after the curbing's in, Chelsea goes through, checks everything, sees where it's at.
what I'd like to do is maybe do once a month
Sorry.
for the next months, maybe. That'll give them time, they're gonna get the curbing in this week and next week, get a report after that, and then, say, around the end of June, give us another report, and if everything is clean and done properly by that time, the grass will be growing, and I'd be happy with that. But I don't see a need for twice a week now, I really don't.
I think we can cut it back, and what the deal that we made with them is we do twice a week and then we cut it back to once a week. We could do that for a couple weeks, see how that goes, and then go to the once a month.
Well, the order of conditions says once it's stabilized, they don't have to do it anymore. Within a month, it's gonna be completely stabilized with the grass growing and everything, so, I just don't see the need to do it.
So, Alex, your
Please.
proposal, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry. Finish your conversation.
My proposal would be after the curbing is in, to give us a report, and then 30 days after that, give us a final report.
And what would that date be that it takes us to, 30 days for the final report?
Well, Ed, my thought is that the hydro seed will be growing, and that would be more stabilized. The curbing is kind of like the last piece to, direct the water and stabilize everything. That gives them time to get that in, and, once that's up and running for 30 days, give us a final report and say that if everything comes back the way it should, then we could drop it.
Right, I'm just asking you, what would be that 30-day date? Are you talking June 1st, June 30th?
Oh, I would say June 30th.
Okay. So.
Because, give us a report after the curbing is in, which will be prior to May 30th. They're working on that this week and next week. And then give us a final report on June 30th.
Okay, I'm in agreement with Lynn that we don't need twice a week and we should cut it down to once a week. And I agree that through the month of May, we continue receiving weekly and see how it goes. And once the curb is in and the seed mix is growing and thriving, I think that's fair.
Jeff, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I think I kind of laid out my case. If you guys are, I guess disagreement that it's stabilized, and I guess that's a question. So, I guess what I would like to understand from my end is it sounds like we are in agreement that grass growing and curb in meets a stabilization definition. So I guess my request would be when we get to that point, and the curbing should be in by the end of this week, and we should have grass growing, very shortly where we did the hydro seeding. So my request would be that when we do hit that point, and we'll more than welcome to have you guys come and walk again like today. I think that was a very helpful exercise. We get to that point, my request would be that we, stop the inspections again as the order of conditions lines is laid out here. So that's my last, I guess, piece on this.
Do we want to pick a date to talk about it again? Once a week until we got May
Once maybe-
27th or June 10th were our next two meetings.
Let's do it the next meeting.
May 27th?
Yeah.
Jeff, you think May 27th is reasonable? We come out a few days before, take a look, you think the curbing will be in, some grass growing? 2 weeks
Yeah,
from today?
we'll definitely have everything situated by then on our end, for sure.
Works for me, yeah.
All right. Okay, sounds like we have a plan. So-
Well, what is the plan? Are they gonna do it every week between now and then, or?
Well, it's only 2 weeks.
That's
So it'd be only, we could do once a week, and then at the next meeting,
We'll discuss
go
it.
out there again, and then at that point, the grass is growing and everything's done, then once a month.
Aside from post-storm, which will continue until.
Right.
Well, I
complete.
mean, if it's all stabilized in 2 weeks, then there's not gonna be a need to do it once a month, because the order of condition says we stop after it's stabilized. So
I
if we
thought we were-
stabilize, then,
I think they mentioned they were gonna do it once a month. Maybe I
No,
misheard.
no,
I don't want that
After,
stabilized, I don't think.
but after you, did you say that after it was stabilized, you were gonna do it once a month?
I mentioned at rain events, so
At rain events.
Right.
probably that will be once a month at, you know.
Oh,
at least.
okay, okay.
But I think that's what I intended to say at the very least.
Sure, I probably misinterpreted, thank you.
so what you're saying is do once a week until our next meeting,
Yeah.
and then if we all agree it's stabilized, then they do it during rain events?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Okay,
I'd be agreeable to that.
okay.
Would the curbing be in by then?
Yes.
Curbing should be in this week.
Okay.
Apologies,
okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, curbing and we're expected to see some grass growing too, to kind
Yeah.
of stabilize the banks.
All right,
Bye.
so I mean, as far as the seed mix growing and everything, I'd like to see it a little established, and hopefully I'll be able to make it out there at the next meeting on May 27th. Because I'd like to look at it myself, but
Okay.
it does sound like a plan. That's
I can make sure to include the curbing and the seed sprouting as well in the reports as I see it.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you guys for cleaning that stuff up.
Okay.
Of course, appreciate working with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, next up, we have SEO 840580, notice of intent after the fact filed by National Grid to emergency utility pole replacement, associated restoration project located at 1103 Plymouth Street.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
For the record, Nate Goshgarian with LEC Environmental. I was here a few weeks ago presenting the original project. I'll just give you a breakdown of what actually happened last year. So last March, there was a significant rain event, and one of the transformers on the utility pole actually caught fire. So naturally, National Grid came out a day later or two and remedied the problem as fast as they could, hence the after-the-fact NOI, and the reason I'm here tonight. During that time, we notified the commission, I believe, with a notification letter, in which we binded ourselves to that agreement to do the NOI. And we are also doing monitoring up until 2026. One of the plans on behalf of the commission last week, or last time I was here, was a planned site visit. I believe that was done to kind of check the regrowth area, specifically the footprint of the utility pole. And I think with that, if there's any feedback, I know there are some comments on the, I believe it's blue joint grass in that area. It is by default ubiquitous. It's inherent on that site pretty generally. The good news is in that footprint specifically, there's barely any. And to that point, I just wanted to make note of something that we've been proactive with in the last 24 hours that came to light yesterday. The footprint in which we seeded with a conservation mix looks a lot like a grass conservation mix.
Can we step back?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
we haven't told the rest of the commission about the site walk yet.
Sure.
So Nick and I went out there and take a look at the site. A lot of it looked good. You could see native plantings, but there was a lot of grass that was in there too. So that's what you were talking about right now.
Yeah.
So you were saying, I wasn't sure if some of those grasses were native grasses or if that was just your typical grass you would see in a disturbed area.
Yeah, certainly naturalized, very common in disturbed soils. And that footprint where the utility pole was maybe 6 feet by 5 feet, where the straw was laying. That looked more like a grass wetland mix, like a conservation seed mix that is atypical for what we normally recommend in those situations. So we went back to the person who did that, and we have them plan either this week or next week to reseed with a more diversified seed mix, sedges, rushes, goldenrods, things of that nature that you would typically see in a natural wetland environment. So I just wanted to alert the commission of that.
Okay, good. Okay. And then we're going to do monitoring, 2-year monitoring?
Correct, yep, up until next year, photo logs twice a year. I believe there's one pending coming up soon, which will provide the commission.
Oh, so there'll be one for the spring,
Correct,
and then one at the end of the, October-ish,
yep,
and then another at that.
for next year, yep.
So at the October-ish 2026, then we'll be done.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Did we confirm a proper NOI application on this? I know we had some question on that on.
Yeah, it was the initial letter of the event. We did get that
We did get it,
Yeah.
okay, good.
back when it happened.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, anybody from the public, any questions? Okay, bringing it back to the board. Any thoughts, comments?
I just want to make sure this one's closed out so it doesn't get added to our lengthy list of open NOIs from National Grid. That would be my only input on that. I'm struggling here to find the list, but I know we have at least 20 open NOIs from National Grid currently. So let's make sure this doesn't get added to it.
Right, I would agree, yeah.
Sounds good. Jean, anything from you?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion?
So what are you looking for a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the NOI with 2 years of monitoring.
Until November?
Yeah,
October.
November, October 2026, with 2 reports, each spring and fall.
Yeah.
During those 2 years.
So I'll make a motion for, to approve 84-0508, after the fact, notice of intent, with the stipulation that we get 2 reports annually until October 2026.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Second, thanks, Jean. Okay, we have to do a roll call. Jean?
Aye.
Alex?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
AJ?
Aye.
Chris? And I, for me, unanimous. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, next up, notice of intent filed by Lee Coppola for, sorry, I said his name wrong, for installation of 16 by 32 in-ground pool project located at 81 Crabtree Lane. Can you state your name and address, please?
Mike Capola, 81 Crabtree Lane, Abington. Just trying to put a pool in the backyard.
Okay, so let's see, AJ, Alex and Nick went on a site visit. You had a delineation that was performed
Yep.
recently.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And that's in our packet by Brad Holmes. This is upside down. And at that meeting, we had discussed, because at the very back, there's a plan. And Nick had said something about being able to move it 10 feet over.
I don't think they have 10 feet, but they could get a few feet close to that deck, probably about 5.
Okay.
I think you guys seem pretty open to it.
Absolutely.
Give a little more room there. Every inch counts kind of with that buffer there, so. Especially
And
kind of.
I might have not remembered this correctly, but you said that was actually preferable to have it closer, or no?
I don't think it's preferable, but it was, what we were originally told we had to be was 10 feet away from there, but there's I mean, if that's what it's gonna take, that's what it's gonna take. So that's fine.
So 5 feet.
Yeah, just tuck in a little bit as much as they can. The other couple things with the site, there's a large sewer easement running through that kind of works out great for a grass yard, but they can't do anything else there. Really limits where they can do this. And another noteworthy, 2019, I believe, there was an NOI approved for this same project. Never pursued. These people bought the house. They're looking to kind of reactivate it, get that pool. A lot of kids running around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we went out there. I think if you can move it over 5 feet, I'd have no problem with this. Definitely has a hardship where the sewer easement runs literally right through the middle of the yard.
Yeah.
This is an NOI. Do we have a SE number on this?
Repeat that.
Where this is an NOI, we have an SE number?
Do we have?
We've not gotten one
We
yet.
haven't gotten that yet.
Okay,
Oh, so we need to get the SC number first.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I can reach out to DP in the morning.
Okay.
Well, I think we could, if we're inclined to approve it, we could approve it, subject to the SE number,
Being issued, yeah.
Yeah.
rather than have to come back. I mean, he gets a number tomorrow, you know, he doesn't have to wait another 2 weeks.
Right.
Appreciate it. Email it, whatever, send it to us.
Yeah.
So once we get the SE, you write the order and yeah? I mean, as far as, you know, it might be moving feet and whatever else might be added to it.
Can we write the order of conditions, but everything is contingent upon getting the
Yeah.
number, right?
Right.
We won't be able to sign anything
Okay.
until we get that, but I think we could write them up.
And if DEP has issues, then we'll revisit it.
Okay.
And then just be mindful of any of the pump placement, or if they have to put a sump drain in it, like we've seen in other places.
Okay.
You can't backwash into the conservation land, so any kind of drainage.
Okay.
Mass DEP has an outline of how to do it across your lawn, basically, so the soil absorbs it, so it's not going directly into any streams or anything, any kind of chlorinated water or anything.
Okay.
So you just want to be mindful with like pump placements and stuff, so that you don't want to set up like the pumps right on the corner of the wetland, so when you go to backwash the filters, that goes right.
That makes sense. Okay.
We have,
There'll be a cartridge filter installed.
just name, address.
Jim Collins, T&D Pool Service. But we're gonna install a cartridge filter. So
Okay.
those get removed and hosed down
Okay.
with tap water, so there's no discharge.
There's still a backwash there is, because you have to isolate the in and the out and open the backwash to drain it down when you open it up.
If that's what you do.
How else do you do it?
You
have
open the air release, the
You
tank
still have
drains,
the full,
the tank drains down to the half. You undo your
right, so
screws,
where is that
pull
water
it
going?
back to the pool.
I'm sorry, the pressure of the pool, the filter is lower than the jet?
Your filter is not lower, your filter will be higher, because the planned proposed section is next to the garage.
Okay, yep, you're on an in-ground pool.
So, and
Okay.
it's an in-ground pool, so when we release the
Yep.
pressure, it drains in, we pull the cartridges out,
Yep,
the rest of the water's in the tank,
okay,
install them, it goes right
Perfect.
back.
okay. I know we've just run into it elsewhere where they were running.
We were conscious of the
Yep.
wetland, so we knew it was gonna be a cartridge.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. I would definitely say, when we do the compliance, that be an ongoing condition. So if they ever change out their filter, anyone like that, it's
Yeah.
right attached to the property. 20 years they sell, nobody can throw a hose out. Or,
Right, it's just,
yeah, it's definitely something to be mindful of.
because we've now noticed it in other places on sidewalks.
Yeah. We should also discuss signage too, because that's another thing that pops up 20 years from now. People aren't going to know there's wetlands there. So we should have some signs put up.
You stole my thunder.
Sorry.
How big are the signs, Gene?
8.5 by 11 on a 4 foot tall post.
You can put a, yeah, on post. We have designs on the website,
Okay,
so you can look at that.
okay.
And you can just,
So kind of where it was staked out, like the red flags, put it on that? Okay,
yeah.
We're not gonna
Well,
have you do all of those, no.
okay.
it's not going to be throughout. It would just be like 2, maybe. I know it depends. I have to look on the thing, but it's not going to be,
Do maybe one at flag number 3, 2 or 3, and then
Yeah.
one over by 9 or 10.
Okay,
That would be my opinion.
yes,
And I think that's way more than enough.
yeah, I agree.
I think probably erosion control in, we do a pre-construction walk, we can tell them kind of where the
Where
best
you
placement is for the
want them.
sign.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
probably the easiest way to make it clear to everyone, I think.
Yeah. Yep. So before the work begins, we'll have a meeting and then discuss
similar
that.
to what we did earlier.
Yes,
this year.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Get the erosion control
But
in,
we'll go
they give
through
us a-
all
take a
the,
look at it.
Okay,
the different conditions that are necessary, like
sounds good.
pre-construction meeting would be a condition
Okay,
for the work, that type of thing.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do the conditions at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to stay for that, or we'll just tell
Doesn't
you
look
what they
like
are.
there's That much more going on.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's get a motion
Anyone?
for this.
Anyone out there?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Anybody from the audience have any questions? Oh, bringing it back.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve, subject to DEP file number, and condition that they're gonna move the pool approximately 5 feet closer to the rear deck.
Second, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna second your motion.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, I think that's all we need. Everything else will be in the order of conditions.
Okay. All right. And you seconded, Jean?
I did.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote. Jean?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
John? AJ?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you very
Congratulations.
much. Yes, congratulations.
Pool party, your house.
Yep.
Going.
All right. Okay, so next up, we have request for determination of applicability filed by Mark Gianasso, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it, to add garage addition to existing single-family home project located at 45 Margaret Road. Is he here?
Yes, he is.
All right.
Evening. Mark Wanasso, 45 Margaret Road.
Okay. So there was a site walk last week. I was not able to attend.
AJ, myself, and Nick went out there, and this is probably one of the simplest ones we've looked at. There are absolutely no issues on this.
Yeah.
He's expanding, well, the garage is coming down.
Yeah, it's replacing it with a bigger garage.
With a bigger garage.
Okay.
And the garage isn't going beyond the deck that's already there. And he is,
You were like 900 or 90 feet
90
from
feet.
the
90
wetlands or
feet from the
something?
wetlands, yeah. And it's all grass.
Same as the house.
Nice, nice backyard, so I would, open it up to the neighbors and the board.
Okay. All right, anybody from the public have any comments? Okay, bring me back to the board.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion for a negative determination.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right.
So
So a negative determination means no further action is needed by this
Okay.
board.
It sounded very negative.
I think it sounds
Yeah, I
good,
know, it sounds weird.
but a positive would be.
It's a good thing.
All right.
So,
Okay, all right, so,
in second, so,
okay, and roll call, Jean?
Aye.
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 I think I have to say your names, but that's okay. Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, discussion on cease and desist for 17 Crabtree Lane.
I'm Deborah Allison of 17 Crabtree Lane.
All right, so we had a site walk last week.
Yes.
There are a lot of trees that were cut down. I saw a lot of puddles back there. We do have a letter of support from a neighbor. Where did that go? Had it in here. Requesting, or enthusiastically requesting
So
that.
after the site walk, we drove down, you left, we drove down around the corner, and Nick got out and looked at the culvert. And the neighbor come out, this is from that neighbor?
Yeah, it's from that same neighbor. Way he described it, I think it was somehow Debbie brought it up. Someone, he said the county, I'm not sure if it was the county or the town, came out, cleaned the culvert for the first time in a very long time. And that freed up a lot of water in that area that, drained into the stormwater system. His big issue up there is the pooling causing mosquitoes. So he's hopeful to see more water leaving the site now with that culvert set up, everything like that.
But in order to do that, then the swale would have to be cleaned out
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, if it was gonna come from further up.
What does it say on that mapper?
I'll share
Wooden
my screen.
Swamp, I believe. That's how it's described.
So when I was out there, the heaviest pooling to the far left corner of her property, I guess that would be the southwest corner, at the corner of the rock walls. It was a good 6 to 8 inches deep, clear water pool. And looking at more of what we found after the fact, it would definitely make sense if that's a spring back there. In that there's definitely backup of the spring further into her property due to the culvert and the swale being clogged. Because when we looked at the neighbors' properties and stuff, she definitely got the short end of the stick with this parcel, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. Had that swale been working properly, it's just my opinion, and I'm not a wetland scientist, I don't think she would have the puddles
Right.
that are in her yard now.
At the same time, I feel her house is vulnerable in the current status in the back there.
My concern is looking at this map on, there's a substantial wetland that goes from, what's that number, 19? What's on?
Yeah.
I mean, it goes up and around, and she does have the most on her property, which is sad. But also topographically, if that's still, where is water going to run off to? Like, I'm looking at 383 Hancock Street, that seems to be lower. I pulled up a topographical map of Abington, and I think her elevation was at 67, and then it drops down to like 64 if you get down towards Fort Lane and stuff. So my concern is shutting water from a wetland. I don't know how that would be to the neighbors.
Well, shedding it would be into the existing swale and culvert,
Where's the swale? On the back of the property?
right on the back of the property, yes.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's a wetland, it's, I mean, I don't know anywhere in the act where it says you can fill a wetland.
You can't.
Well, we're not saying fill the wetland,
Oh,
we're saying clean out the swale so it's working properly.
gotcha.
Well, there's that, but there's also, you'll have to restore.
Right.
That's the thing. You can't.
And within the restore, I feel there needs to be some stabilization done, because if you look at the back of the property there, right at the edge of her yard, it's very washed. I say this lightly because I'm not saying it in terms of bringing in, I'm saying it in terms of properly lumen seed to stabilize that slope so that it doesn't continue to further itself to her house and jeopardize her foundation.
I already have cracks in my foundation that I just had repaired, and the previous homeowner had some repaired.
Right, so I'm saying that some type of stabilization to prevent this wetland from continuing into your house is definitely needed, but I'm not a wetland scientist, I'm not a civil engineer, I can't say how that needs to be done.
And the thing is, I think the reason it's encroaching on our property is because of the swale.
Absolutely, because now that...
Had that swale been working for the last 10 years, I don't believe the wetlands would be up as high as they are in the backyard.
And then looking at neighboring properties, there's definitely been activity that has impacted her negatively also.
Were you guys able to go to 45 Margaret, was it, to see the property or anything that's,
which
we were supposed to
That
look
was
at it?
this one up here.
That was up there?
Yes.
With the garage, yeah.
With the
Not part of the sidewalk?
in- There's a stone wall right on the property line. So those property lines are dictated by stone wall. And we know stone walls being historic, they also create swales and mitigate water at the same time. So you can tell that stone wall created a swale or a dam, and that's how the water traveled down to that culvert and drainage.
And that might have been put in back in the early 90s when they
I
first
think it's
filed their notice of intent.
I think that stone wall is even older than that, because it's at the back of the properties across the way. I'm thinking it's farmland stone walls. But,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you know, so it was probably done to keep the property on Hancock from dry, from the wetlands. And then whenever they put in Crabtree, it just came up to that. It's, I feel bad.
Can you move
It's a
that
poor
screen
situation
up so
looking
we
at
can
it.
see, go up, bring 17 Crabtree up higher.
Oh,
Other
higher,
way,
sorry,
I was
like
trying
that?
to see 7.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see right
Right
there.
here?
Yeah.
Can we go satellite just for a minute there, just to try and,
Like images?
yeah, aerial satellite? Just because looking back,
Oh, wow.
so it really did do it justice. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Because when we were standing there, next door almost seems like, it didn't seem like it was higher looking over. You know, again, I'm not shooting a laser, checking grade or anything, but
Yeah, I think the thing to do is get someone, engineer, wetland scientist, who can strike a balance between restoring the wetland and also making certain that your house doesn't get damaged from whatever has been causing cracks in the foundation, et cetera.
Okay, how do I go about that? Because I don't have money to do that.
We're doing, are you clearing trees?
I cleared dead trees. They were falling down like matchsticks, and all the stumps were rotted. And a lot of them had already fallen down over the winter from the wind. So the house was already in jeopardy from that. So I just finished clearing and cleaning out 34 years of debris that was dumped back there.
So the thing is that if you want to, alter wetland, you first have to file with us, and we would have gone out there and we would have
See,
looked at it. and
I was told it wasn't wetlands. I
Yeah,
asked the
I know.
question to the homeowner when I bought the house, and they said absolutely not.
Yeah, but there's also a reason they didn't cut things down.
They said
either.
that because they had a second home, they had no reason to, because I did ask the same questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, though, that you do have wetlands there, and that.
Oh, I've learned that.
Yeah, and wetlands can't be altered, and if there is alteration, then you have to restore. That's state law. So, I mean, we want to do it in a way, though, that allows you to be able to not have damage to your home. You mentioned the foundation, AJ was mentioning things that he saw, but I know you wanted to fill it in to make a yard.
Right.
I don't think that's going to be possible.
So this just depreciated the value of my property and my home.
I mean, it depends. Some people will think that's fantastic, some people won't.
No, but it's detrimental to my property and the value.
Okay, but that's the state law. We can't just say
Then
it's
how did
fine.
everybody else around me that has wetlands put pools in, basketball courts in?
They don't, but they're
They
not
do.
doing it in the wetlands.
Okay, they clearly have
This
it.
one right here, they put up a pool right near it, but not in it. And then the one down below, they've got the pool next to it, but it's not in the wetland. If I take away the overlay of the wetland, you can still see that this whole area here is all wooded still. It's just that the way the wetland is.
So can I fill up to the wetlands and do grass?
That's where you should get a proposal, get a wetland scientist.
Do you have
come up with-
recommendation? I don't even know what a wetland scientist is.
We can't recommend any, but like if you look at here, this is the pool we just approved on 81
Yeah,
Crabtree.
okay,
He hired this wetland scientist that came in, did the delineation first.
okay.
And he flagged where the edges of the wetland was and what was considered wetland. And then we were able to figure out, okay, so now we know where the edges of the wetland are, and then where we could go from that.
Okay.
So we use Mass Mapper as a tool, but we can't use this to legally define the edges of it. So,
This is just giving us a rough idea.
Okay.
right.
Not that there's not wetlands there, because obviously we know there is. It's just that it could be shifted over. It could be this way, this way. Sometimes it's bigger than what we've seen on Mass Mapper. Sometimes we've gone out there and it's like, it's much, much bigger than what we expected, and I haven't ever seen it be less.
Okay.
So that's why you'd want to have a wetland scientist, is because they could confirm exactly where it is.
Okay.
But importantly, they would have a really good idea of how to deal with the situation, what you could plant there, if there's any sort of engineering thing that needs to be done to protect your house, that sort of thing. They would have that
And
expertise.
so, like at the end of that concrete walk going out into your backyard, you may, after you get it, talk to him, whoever, and have it flagged, you may be able to spread loom along there and stabilize that and maybe do some bushes or something in the wetland. But I would still like to see that swale cleaned out so it's working.
So who's responsible for that?
Well, I would talk to somebody first and get an idea, on cost of everything. But I think
Am I
that-
responsible for the swale? Because it's not even on my property. Isn't it down the street?
No, but it runs from your property down to,
But does it run that whole, from over on Margaret down through down through Crabtree and onto Bayberry?
Yeah, I mean, the water comes down here. The Margaret is a higher elevation, and then the elevation starts to
yeah, and it
decrease as
goes
you go
down like
towards
that to
Bayberry.
the culvert right there.
Yeah.
'Cause
So the water is flowing all through the wetland.
Yeah, because the neighbors said when the other neighbors put in the pool in their basketball court, it made the puddling in the backyard worse.
Right, because the swale isn't working properly. If
And
the
they're right.
swale was working properly, then it would be running.
So the swale's on my property?
Yeah, I
Okay.
would, yes. Because if you look at the property line there, And it's interesting how the wetland stops exactly at the property line.
There's another stone wall.
I was gonna say, probably
It's, the stone walls in this area definitely play a heavy portion.
And the one next to you, obviously, something was done there years ago.
But even once you have a wetland scientist or engineering or anything, look at anything and give advice, you can't go forward until you come back to the board and apply and get approval.
Okay.
It still has to come back through us. We can take the advice and work with you with everything. So you just don't want to go forward, you
Right.
know. We're just trying to help you.
Yeah, and right, protect my house, but I had no idea of any of this.
So I would talk to somebody and they will give you suggestions on what to do.
Okay.
You tell them what you'd like to do, you tell them what we said, and they will give a plan probably
Okay, okay,
what to do.
all right,
All right. But until then, you can't do anything.
right, right. No, I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Do we want to, I have the cease and desist there. Do we want to set a date to have something presented back to us? Just kind of leave the site on hold for a bit? Obviously, she's not going to be able to do all this stuff tonight.
Right, exactly.
About 60 days.
Do we want to set any kind of stabilization, swaddles or anything, you think? Prevent further erosion of your yard?
I don't think that would help in this situation, yeah. I would rather not do anything until she talks to somebody.
Yeah, I want to see more damage done.
Yeah. Do you think you could talk to someone and?
I'll make phone calls, but it depends on how much it costs.
Yeah.
I don't have the money. I'm a single parent, put everything into buying the house.
Well, why don't you, in 2 weeks, whether you come here or you just talk to Nick, give us an update.
Okay,
And then we'll decide then
okay,
what to do. At least you can get some pricing and decide what you can and
shop
can't do.
around.
We should have a list, not that we can recommend anybody, but we could have a list of 10 companies that residents could call.
Yeah, it's maybe like 10 people or something.
Well,
Yeah, I'd be hesitant.
I was going to say they can look back
I don't even know what a
Something wants
wetland
to go
scientist is.
poorly or just someone who's not on the list.
I would just do a
Sometimes
Google
it's the
search.
Water department, the sewer department.
Wetland
That can be
scientist,
scary, that can be scary though, unless
Massachusetts.
somebody can recommend somebody, because you don't know who you're getting.
Yeah, yeah.
Do research, Google, you do everything you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah,
Due diligence.
I'll do the
People's
best I can,
reputation.
yeah.
Just because something is expensive or cheap doesn't mean it's the best or the worst.
Yeah, definitely get what you pay for when it comes to wetland scientists.
Yeah, because we've seen some real good ones come in front of us, and then we've seen ones that end up costing the resident a lot more than what was needed.
And that's what I can't do.
No, absolutely, you know, and it kills us to watch, you know.
Right.
Again, we can't
I
show.
mean, I just
mine.
bought the house in October, I moved into December. I didn't know any of this. The homeowner, like I said, I asked the questions and they said, nope, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to depreciate the value of the property.
Well, like I said, in some people's views,
Yeah, but
that's not a depreciation, in others it is.
Yeah,
There are people who do want woods in their backyard, they're happy
Right.
about that. There
oh,
are
there's
people who
there's still,
definitely
there's still
don't.
woods back there. There's
Yeah.
definitely still woods, but I need to have a yard too for my family.
All
Okay,
right, so
so-
why don't you touch base with Nick within the next 2 weeks?
Okay.
2 weeks, meet with that.
Okay,
So we'll talk about it on the 27th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the 27th?
27th is the next meeting.
Okay. So I'll talk to you before that.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda, discussion and
Mr.
enforcement
I
order.
think there may be somebody from the audience.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? Tim Leahy, 4 Bayberry Road. I'm the guy that wrote the letter. Debbie's kind of the victim here of the fact that everybody on Hancock Street filled in their property and pushed the water onto her property. 40 years ago, the kids skated on the Hancock Street yards. They filled that in and it pushed all the water into her yard because it's the lowest spot. So I'm not quite sure how wetland it is. Is it wet? Yes, but that's because everybody pushed the water there. So if she was able to grade the water back to the stone wall and push that water so that it went to Bayberry Road to the catch basin that's there, because there is a stream there. Plymouth County Mosquito Control has it on their map that there's a little stream. Their guys came out, 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago, whatever, and they cleared it all out so the water would run better. But they couldn't go on her property because they needed permission. And David Rossborough, who owns the property, gave them permission to come out. I just happened to be the nosy neighbor that was there. So, in my opinion, and I'm not a scientist, but if she was able to push the water back towards the stone wall, you made the point, the stone wall's a natural swale. Let the swale do its work. Push the water back and just bring her yard up. It'll push the water away from the house and it'll push the water down to Bayberry Road where it belongs. It's just, she's the victim of being the lowest yard in the neighborhood. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, discussion on enforcement order for 900 Adams Street. Is anybody here from that? All right, so we had talked at the last.
That's Bedford. Seems reasonable, move it. Bedford, move Bedford up. Yeah. Strongly.
Okay, we can move Bedford up. Sure. You're here for that. So discussion on enforcement order for 1424 to 1428 Bedford Street is number 7.
This is in Bedford.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll share what I have on at home.
Is it from last week?
It's from like
A couple weeks ago.
Okay, I might have it. I pulled it a little bit. Yeah, I remember that. I got it.
So sorry. Stephanie Baker, I'm here to represent 1424 through 1428 Bedford Street. And we're just returning in response to an enforcement order dated on 1/28/2025. And once again, I'm here to represent Mr. McCaffrey because he cannot be here. So we've had 5 weeks to prepare, and we've done a lot of research in the different laws and as we go through. I can only assume that you guys have done the same kind of background stuff that we have. Lynn, I sent you a packet that I sent to also Kevin Donovan, Scott LaBasie, and a member of the DEP named Greg. I actually spoke to him on the phone, just going over like what we were going through. And so hopefully you guys have had time to review our information, to see that we have not been doing anything. And based on the laws and everything that we've researched, it really just talks about if you're doing anything new, filling, or dredging. We're not doing any of that. The photos that I showed you the last time show that we're not doing that. When you know the truth and the history of the property, there was a lot of things said at the last meeting that just simply was not true. We're not doing anything new. Sorry, these are Mr. McCaffrey's words, so I'm just going to go through them. So we put a lot of time and effort into proving that we're not doing anything new. I was out to the property today. I do have photos with me to show what the property looks like right now. The members that went out onto the property in December have not been out there since, correct? Nobody's gone out there since. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I
No?
went out a couple,
I mean,
December was.
yeah,
mostly since then.
yes,
That
yes,
sounds
yes.
about right.
Yeah, so Nick had come out another time after that to take the photos, correct? And the members that went out there had never visited the property prior to that.
That's
So would you?
not true.
When did you go out?
I had been on the property prior, purchasing a boat years before.
Oh, okay, all right. But did you go back to the back or to the front? Was there a specific spot that you were at?
It was out front. It was on the property. though.
Yeah, it was on the property, but it wasn't into the area in question, is that correct?
That'd be correct.
Okay, all right. Just so that we're all clear, that if you haven't been to the property before, you wouldn't really know if we were doing anything new, correct?
I would, it's pretty clear to see when you're up to a tree and gravel is over the root base and halfway up, which we have photos of.
Correct, which has been there since 2012.
That tree would be dead.
It is dead. It's actually just holding the wood piles up there.
No, that's nowhere near the wood pile.
What, all right, so which picture are you specifically?
Do you have the photos from when we went handy, anyone? Our photos, Nick? Right here behind the 20-foot shipping container, which is right next to the perfect cube of brush. Here's a tree that one side of is filled, and the other side is wetland. You can clearly see. One side is filled up against, and then drops off right there.
Okay, so that's on the, okay, so that's looking out towards.
One of these pictures from?
This is from when Nick and I went out there.
When was that, though?
Page is dated. Top of the front.
And Jean.
118.
Okay. All right, so, but once again, I'm gonna have to try to look for that photo.
And then there's piles here next to cars. This container is hanging off into a swamp.
And once again, this is not new stuff. This is not stuff that's been done. So this is not new fill. None of this is new,
Okay.
okay? And how would you, so again, I have photos from today that I just went out there. Oh, I got Jim's on. So really, we're just here to, so all this stuff here that Nick took, the
Yeah.
last time I was here, we had already clarified that this was already cleaned up, correct? With basically the photos that I had given to you, they had already been cleaned up
Do we have
in that
a,
packet.
has the property line been surveyed and a delineation done?
No, it has not. Delineation, because based on the laws, you cannot make a homeowner delineate if we're not doing anything new, and if we're not dredging, if we're not filling. We're not filling, we've been at that same line since 2012.
Good thing it's not a homeowner.
Well, it's
Well,
not
if-
dredge or fill, it's also alter.
We're not altering.
So, when I'm looking, I mean, we can go through and we can look at Google Earth Pro and just like start walking through, or Mass Mapper, and just start seeing what has been done. But if there has, you know, the issue is, let me just share my screen. Okay. All right, so we've got this whole area out here
Okay.
that seems to be on town land.
Well, we're not here to talk about whether it's on town land or not.
Well, it's,
Because what we're here to get cleared up, that there's, and based on the order that we have in front of us, is that there is filling happening there's not filling happening.
So the work that you've been doing back here in the wetlands, that's you, right? This is your businesses?
So, yep, but that's
Okay.
been in existence since 2012, when we were approved to do so.
You were approved to go back here on
Yes, we
town
were.
land?
Yes, yes, because at the time in 2012, it was town land. But prior to that, it had been like a regular homeowner had owned it. They've been in this property area for 50 years, and they got permission in 2002 to cut down some trees and fill, and that's the line that they've used since then.
So they got permission to fill all this area? They
Absolutely.
filed an NOI for this?
I think how it came about originally, and I included the orders in your packet, originally it came about, may have been a complaint or something, and then they came in front of the board, and Alex had gone out there, said that they weren't filling. I don't know how the original in 2002 permission, whether it was at an intent to fill, or whatever you just said. I don't know. I know that he had permission to do it back in 2012, 2002, based on the minutes from that meeting in January, and you had those in your packet that I sent you.
That's the January 8th meeting?
Yes, and it's also in the PowerPoint from last time. So they had permission to do that in 2012. We had another visit in 2012 that stated that we were okay, we were not near the wetlands. What was determined over time, the wetlands moved closer to us, but again, if it's existing, we can't delineate just because the wetlands moved closer to us. So asking us to delineate a property that's been in the same use since 2002, it just doesn't make sense. And it's not fair for us to do that. So very much like what you just said, that case that you just heard, that person just came to you and stated the entire neighborhood has just moved into the wetlands, but because nobody complained about it, they were allowed to do that. Well, technically, you just got notification, and you're making this other person jump through hoops to do what she's got to do. Yeah, so you can just keep going right through, and you're going to see it's never changed.
Actually, I see.
Definitely changed.
This is 2005.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All this
Is now gone.
and this, you got a huge section here.
No.
That is there, 2008.
Yeah.
You see, going beyond.
Yeah. And 2012 was the last time that you'll see anything moving.
2013, I'm seeing stuff, all that.
No, so here's the thing about,
2019, let's go here.
Whoa.
And compare it to 2000.
but it
so
really
that's
has
all that.
to, it depends on the time of year too. So when you have trees that have leaves on them, you're not going to see.
It's barren.
You're not going to see all that. So again, if you look at the 2010 photo, which is the clearest one, you should be able to see that area that you're talking about more clearly. Because it's not covered by trees. But that has not moved, that line has not moved since, at the very least, 2010.
So when you came before in 2012, the property was listed on the property that we were looking at was 1424, 1428, et cetera.
Correct.
So the Conservation Commission is making a judgment on those properties. It's not making a judgment on back here.
Well, yes, so they made a judgment as to where that line, so at the time, they were not disputing the line. The trees and all the stuff that is in line there were in the same spot as they were in 2012, and they had permission.
The property line, the property line.
The property line has nothing to do with anything.
It does, because it looked like you went farther beyond the
Yeah,
property line.
because if we said in 2012 that you could work up to the end of your property, and I honestly don't remember the conversation.
Yep.
But just looking at this, you can see the property line.
Right.
And if we went out there and said, you can work within 10 feet, we allowed at that time within 10 feet. But now if you look at today, is way more than 10 feet cleared beyond the property line.
Look at this photo right here. Look at this one right here, okay?
Because technically.
Look at the front of the container, you can see the tree line right there, right? Look at the trees pushed over into the woods and
There's
fresh
like
millings, making a spot for the cans and the
section
dumpsters.
right
That's
there.
not fresh
Yeah.
milling,
That
that's,
absolute,
it's old
You know, we
asphalt.
probably
It's not
told them
fresh
you can work
millings.
up to
It's
this
old
point,
asphalt.
Right.
you know?
It's
But
been there.
obviously they've
So what
gone
I'm
beyond
saying
that
is,
point.
in 2012,
I can tell you right now, I have millings I put down last August that are now gray.
there's nothing that has been done. When Alex went out there, the line that they were looking at was at that end of the property. Where you see that tree line right there, that's where they walked out to, that's where it was. They were talking about
Property
this.
line ends where the
When-
arrow is right now.
I
okay?
appreciate that.
Now show us a picture from today. That's definitely been expanded, and you have more boxes or whatever?
Nope. Nope.
You don't. Is Google
So go
Earth
back to that, what you just did.
We're gonna make no progress here, we're gonna be here till midnight going back and forth, so what's
Well,
our
I
next
have a
steps?
right to my time, so I
You
have a
do,
right to
but you
time.
have,
So-
I mean, go back to
Yeah, let's look
2010.
at the pictures.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's take a note of that pile you see the line, right? You see the wood pile. So this here is the current wood pile,
Okay,
okay? Back in 2012, when we were talking, and you see the information in the communication from the compost pile is this area right here. These trees here are either, depending on what time of year it is, are clear, are not there, but this here has been there since 2012. This has been here since 2012.
You can't touch the screen or.
Sorry.
It's like a Zoom
So
thing.
this has been here since 2012. So whether or not this red line has moved or however that superimposes on it, this property since 2012 went across here, up here, and there. That was the usage that was approved in 2012. That was the usage that was approved in 2012, and like I said, I have photos from today.
What year are we looking at right there, Lynn?
that was
This is 2011 to 2012.
This is 2011 we're looking at right now?
And this is 2023.
So if you notice all,
It's definitely expanded.
Yeah.
Let's go to
It's almost
Google Earth
barren.
Pro.
Yeah, like a bomb.
And to say the purpose hasn't changed, the purpose absolutely has changed. They've had different tenants, different users.
it's not about purpose, we can use
You
the
keep going, the property use has not changed?
The
You
property
keep getting-
has not changed. It's a place where they store trailers and where they do compost up in that left-hand corner there, where they do the wood chip, the wood cutting.
Oh,
There's
they're-
no wood chips over there.
Oh, they're
That's what they do.
composting on the site now?
They were composting, they haven't composted since like, I
And
think
there's
he said
trailers
2008.
back there now that weren't there before?
They're not there now. So the so based on the type of property is and what the usage is and how he does business, the trucks and stuff are gonna go in and out. Like, they store trucks back there, they leave, and then they're gone. They go in and out, so they're not standard. But since this here, and again, you can see the straight line.
That's not just trees without leaves on it.
That's
This
a
is-
clean cut line right there.
Right? But you can see the compost in the
All right, yeah.
left-hand
All
corner
right,
there.
We'll give you the compost.
Okay, so-
But what about the rest of the stuff that's been clear cut?
It's not clear cut, that's been there since 2012.
What year is this, Lynn, that we're looking at?
2013.
Yep,
Okay, so there's a clear cut line
Yep.
between lot and woods there.
yep.
Okay.
That's gone.
And see, if you see, that is not gone.
It absolutely is. Right here, look it.
Okay, so take a
So,
look.
and over here, when you think about, so when he did go out there in 2012, I'm not sure what year it is, maybe 2002, they talked about clearing. This is the line that he used. On the assessor's map, if you were to line up his property, where this cuts off is where he judged the line that he used.
So it is
Okay.
clear cut. You just told me.
From 2012. Sorry, actually, yeah. This is from 2012, that's how it's been. He has not done anything new since 2012. The trucks going in and out is definitely different,
Okay,
because it's
so
different
when we
people,
did the
different
walk,
tenants.
he admitted he has not been on the site in over 2 years. He said he cannot take ownership of anything that has been done on the property. So how can you speak for any of the tenants?
Because he has family members that go there. I've been there multiple times. There's nothing new happening. If you take a look, so and these are like the areas in questions. I took these photos today, so I couldn't print them out. But the back lot, you can clearly see vegetation behind where you are. This is all the vegetation that is actually protecting the wetlands behind there. There's a 6-foot drop, right? I'm not very sure how far in there. But there's like a 6-foot drop. There's no way that if he was
What year
filling
was
or
that
had
right there,
been
Lynn?
filling.
This one,
No, go back one more.
that's May of 2012.
Okay?
Okay, can we see the 2013 one again? I'm sorry, Lynn.
Sure.
And then maybe compare that to 2019?
Sure.
So this is 13 we're looking at, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So when
Then
you,
give us
That's
19 if you could.
2014. There's a shift.
And
yep,
again,
there's
if
a
you take
shift
a look-
there.
Wait,
Hold
okay,
on.
there, shifted, right here.
Yep,
Is
that's
it a
when that
different
trailer
angle?
showed up.
It's, yeah,
I think it might be a different angle.
This is hard to see because it's snow,
yep.
That's,
shadow,
that's when that aluminum trailer showed up in the
All
corner.
right, so this
Yep.
is what year, Lynn?
2015.
Okay? And that, so
So this section
so
right
just
here.
from a reference standpoint as well, I'm really glad you brought this up here. From a reference point, this trailer right here is still on the premise at the same exact spot it is right there.
Right, but that showed up after 2012.
That should have been there, so,
What year was this, Lynn?
2015.
Yeah, that showed up after 2012. That space for that trailer is not there in 2012.
I'm pretty sure that that's
It is
there,
not.
but let me just double check. I have a photo of that one, hold on.
Well, you look for that. Can I just ask, what brought this back up in front of us?
Somebody complained that there was filling up there and down there,
Just recently?
I guess.
It was a complaint that was
Late
made
fall.
So
last
do we
year.
But
have?
this year?
Do
Oh,
we
last
have?
year.
Last year.
So do we have, we should have the option to have that information of who complained? Because how would that person even know that we were filling back there, or if we allegedly were filling? That
I
person would
mean,
not
you're
know.
at a public business, there's Maps Mapper, there's Google Earth.
What-
You said
But
there's people in and out of there all the time, so.
they're contractors. They're, you know, and the
Does-
person
is it
that does, the
important
person
what
that
their
runs
name is?
the wood cutting business for us back there, he's been there for 20 years. The lines have not moved since he was there. So I know that Google Images makes it look like it appears, but the two things that are super important here is the old compost pile, which is in the left-hand corner up at the top, and the wood pile. They have not moved, they have not changed, and everything between that has not moved, has not changed. And if allegedly we were filling in, again, the area of water back there, which we're not going to classify that as wetlands because we're not wetland scientists, but it's a small little stream back there. Had they been filling in, there would be no stream there, there'd be no wetland back there. But they have not. They have not moved the property line at all since 2012. And like I said, I have photos from today just showing that they cleaned up the back area there, showing the the vegetation back there. Perennials take 4 to 6, even more time to grow. When I tell you these are this high, I went back there. So 4 to 6 weeks to germinate and then to grow. So they're up to here. If there was new filling in there, you would not see the growth. You would not see any growth back there at all. Not at all.
No, that's not necessarily true.
How
It depends on the species. What species are we talking about?
New growth where the fill stopped.
Right, but if there was, the fill has been there since 2012. The fill has been there since 2012. And nobody's been on that, again, since 2012, and we can't remember going back there. So the only person that can prove that we haven't done it,
Is a wetland scientist.
no,
There you go. Yeah.
it's not a
We were out
wet.
on site, there was a large amount, gas cans, used motor oil, tubs of it.
How-
There's
how-
machines that covered in woolly rags back there. While I was there, a man showed up, dropped a roll-off dumpster right up against the back of the lot. We told him to move it. Scott was on the phone, he didn't even know who it was.
There's
Large amount of abandoned vehicles at the time.
And all of that has been cleaned up.
So
And we
what-
cannot speculate what's in the barrels. We don't know that there's oil. Did you open the barrels?
What are these jugs?
So what is in the barrels then?
I don't know, I did
What
not
are these
open them.
jugs in the bin that say motor oil?
Again, that's not in the area in question.
Yes, it
That's
is.
right up against the back of the property.
Well, that's not, none of that is there. None of that is there right now.
Awesome.
Now,
I
what
don't know why I
does
was
the
ever-
enforcement order say?
Provide the commission with a certified plot plan and proof that wetland scientist has been hired for wetland delineation by May 6, 2025. That did not happen. For discussion, the commission's meeting, May 13th, 2025. That's what we're supposed to be discussing today, is their proposal. Move everything on site at least 100 feet from the end of the current fill. Install silt sock erosion control and contact commission to inspect by February 5th, 2025. That also did not happen.
So that's not why we're here. So may have been an order, but it states right there in 2 that the reason why we're here is you're stating that we're filling, and we're not filling.
You're altering. You've altered.
We're not
a lot.
altering. We have
It's
not altered the
just
property.
filling, It's also dredging or altering, and there's a number.
But you
of
didn't put
different ways.
altering on here. You put filling.
Okay, all right, so if you want to get us on a technicality, you can try, but I'm going to make a motion that you have 30 days to abide by what the enforcement order says, or we turn it over to town council.
A second.
That is my motion.
So,
I
Also,
second
like,
it.
fill doesn't have to actively be happening. Fill's a violation every day it's there after it's placed. So today the fill's a violation, tomorrow the fill's a violation, yesterday.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor.
so I just want to make it stated because you guys don't ever give us an opportunity. And everything that would come to you, you're saying that it's not true. Everything that I'm telling you is truth. We have not been
I think
filling.
that's your opinion.
Nope, that's truth.
Well,
Your opinion is that we have been.
right.
You got, all your opinions are that we have been. That's an opinion, that is not fact. And to make a person delineate and is not, for stuff that they're not doing, is not exceptional. It's not acceptable.
Well, I think the survey plan will prove that you're using town-owned property.
Well, so I appreciate that. But that's not why we're here.
No,
Whether or
that's
not we're
what we
using
asked
town
for.
property
It
is
doesn't
not.
matter if we're asked for town property. We asked for a survey plan.
So are you asking for a survey plan because somebody was watching it digitally and saw that we are on town lands? Because that's two different issues.
Okay, my motion stands, and there's a second.
So actually, the next step would be, when would you give us a notice of final decision? Because if we're not going to get anywhere next week, because we're not filling, there's nothing new back there, nobody seems to want to listen and.
So you're not going to abide by the enforcement order?
We are not.
Okay. So we can just, my motion stands, but we have it on record that you will not abide by the enforcement order.
Correct.
So we will turn it over to town council tomorrow.
So, based on the stuff that.
So I think the discussion is over.
Well, no, one more thing. Based on what Nick told us last time, we could appeal it. In order for us to appeal it, we need a notice of final decision. So I'm not sure how you.
When did we give the enforcement order out?
January 20th.
January 28th, 2025.
So you had 60 days to appeal it.
No, we can't appeal it until we get notice of final decision.
That you have 60 days from the date of the enforcement order to appeal. It was ratified, you have 60 days.
No, it's from what I've.
Our final decision was you need to get a wetland scientist and you need a survey. That's all that there is.
How is that a final decision?
Work with less than the DEP.
That is the final decision.
So I appeal it to DEP tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not DEP, it's,
Superior Court.
Superior Court.
Appeal it to
But
Superior
in
Court.
order for us to file that with Superior
I
Court.
think you might be getting a little confused in your research. I think you're looking at things like zoning decisions. This is enforcement order, this is the decision.
And just to clarify, Lynn, all the stuff that we had sent you that were factual information that is irrelevant to us, to you guys, like, is that the case here?
Well, we would review that when we get what we asked for with the enforcement order.
Right here.
So,
Such appeals must be filed with Superior Court within 60 days of the issuance of an order. This is from the DEP's enforcement manual.
okay, so what you're saying is the only thing that we can do is go to the town council, is that what you're saying?
No,
So we're going, we will. And town council will be in touch.
The solution to this problem is if you were able to come out to the property and see for yourself, because you were the only person that knew where the property line, what
And
we
I
were
can
using.
go, but no, I didn't know where the property line was.
All right, so not the property line, but how far they were, being used, the usage of the property, how far back that it went.
And if you look at all the pictures from
Yep.
Google since then, it's
Yeah.
definitely changed.
It's not.
And that was 2012?
Yeah.
And that's here.
So anyway,
Yeah.
my motion, there is a motion and a second, so
Yeah.
there's no further discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we have a roll call vote? Jean?
Aye.
Alex?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Is that
Only
an aye?
because I see movement in the last 2 years.
Was that an aye?
It's an aye.
Okay, all right, unanimous.
And you guys should know that you're on record. The last time that I left and you started talking, you're still on record and you're talking about this.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Next, discussion on enforcement order for 900 Adams Street.
So they're gonna have a wetlands delineation going on tomorrow.
Well, they
Beginning
have
tomorrow.
It begins.
digging tomorrow.
Begins tomorrow.
Yeah, it begins
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
We were gonna look into doing a peer review. The lawyer for the owner stated that that's not allowable. And we had a discussion back and forth. And if you look at the bylaw, it says that we can have peer review, but the bylaw states it needs to be for an application, essentially an ANRAD, NOI, or RDA. So not for this. Oh, she left it. Okay.
And we did get a peer review too. So.
We got one, yeah. But we,
How much was it, just out of curiosity?
I'm sorry?
Jane, how much was it?
I think it was under 3. And
It's
he would come out
2,500.
for the, I think he would come out for the day, he would be there, he would, verify the, soils, and that he would, file his report as far as what his findings were and if they concurred, and he would, appear at a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Didn't the lawyer agree to have their own scientists out there, though?
Yes, so,
Because I watched that meeting.
yeah,
So
so,
why are we requiring a peer review on that?
Well, the reason why we required a peer review is because, the wetland scientist is hired by the person who owns the property, and that's who he's representing.
Yeah, but Gene, so is the peer review.
May I finish?
Kind of stuff.
Because I'm getting a lot of feedback when you talk, I talk, and it's very difficult to hear. And I don't mean to keep interrupting people, and Alex, I apologize, but every time I hear your voice and then you stop, I try to say something, you're still talking, and it's like, I don't want to be interrupting, but that's the problem with Zoom right now. Soil samples, he may come back and say, oh, there's only 2 acres, but yet plotting it by Mass Mapper, it looks like over 3 acres. And if we have our own wetland scientists there representing the town's interests, it would be resolved right then and there. We wouldn't have to keep continuing and going on and on and on and hiring somebody after the fact. Lynn probably could explain it a little better. I'm sorry.
no, I thought you did pretty good.
Check and balances.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just somebody who represents us, because we don't have anybody who represents us to go out there and say, to agree or disagree with what's going on.
Sure.
Like, if Nick would have to spend a day, entire day, or any of us would have to spend an entire day. None of us are wetland scientists. I've had some training, and I have gone out to these more, extensive things, and I've argued with the wetland scientist at one point, and he was like, oh, wait, you're right, there is hydric soils here. So we need somebody who would be able to do that, to kind of have a pushback and defend the interests of the town. So that was the idea. They already have a delineation from 2014, so it would be good we can check what they give us against what has been done before. But you can clearly see on Mass Mapper that there's wetlands, and it follows, the line that's there on Mass Mapper is pretty close to what was delineated back in 2014, but it's been all filled.
Can I was waiting.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Here's my thing on this. First of all, wetland scientist has to be licensed through the state, correct?
No.
No.
They don't? Okay. Would they have I would assume they have some sort of liability that they can't just lie?
yes.
They have some professional things. The other thing is,
Well, going back to that a little bit, sorry to interrupt, but we have had many cases where a wetland scientist goes out, does a delineation. We have either DEP, when we had a circuit rider, he would come up for free and check it, and it would often be off, sometimes even
People
100
disagree.
feet.
I understand.
In every case,
Every case we've had, it's been off.
Okay, but my problem is this. We have, I think, 3 tree companies in town, and all 3 of them are here on anonymous complaints, I believe. We also, and this gentleman is a taxpayer, and we're gonna charge him double to prove to us that he's following the rules. I mean, that's the kind of
We're not
stuff.
charging him double.
Well, who's gonna pay for the peer review?
He would pay.
He will pay for it.
He's saying in the letter he sent to the Board of Selectmen that it's gonna cost him $30,000. The peer review was $2,500.
Okay, so we're gonna cost
So
him
it's not-
another $2,500.
To defend the interests of the town, to make sure that what we're getting is accurate.
Well, I'm a town taxpayer, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about us having overreach, that we just come in and we tell people that you have to spend thousands of dollars to prove us wrong. That's not the way we should be treating residents of
But
this town.
that
Okay, so how much
is-
would have been if he did it right the first time?
Well, what did he do wrong?
He cleared the property with
So
the
that's not,
delineation.
did you prove that?
He presented.
Yeah, he presented a plot plan.
All right,
with
so
the
why do we need a peer
delineation.
review on that then?
Because he's trying to prove to us that his plot plan is wrong.
He's trying to why would a plot plan in a wetland, I mean, this board, we keep going on property lines, that is not us.
No, he has a plot plan that outlines the wetlands
Okay.
that he got when he purchased the property.
Okay,
So
2014?
this is a file from him.
That he gave us.
His goal at the time is to do a building up here. This is his wetland delineation that he presents to the board.
Okay, what year was this?
19,
No, I think it's.
2014 was the delineation, I think.
Okay, so now he's voluntarily said he'll redelineate again. Where he's gonna, without pushback, watching that, they said they'll come back and do the delineation.
Yeah, that's,
And then we're saying, wait, you gotta spend another $2,500 just so we
No.
can prove that your delineation guy is not lying.
because we want to make certain that it's accurate.
But the thing is, we're not doing that now. We've agreed not to
Not to do a peer
do a
review.
peer review, yes.
At this time.
At this
At
time.
this time.
But if it comes back that we question what his wetland scientist presents to us, then the peer review that will have to be hired is
It would be
then
discussed again.
Will be
It would be
discussed again.
discussed.
And that peer
I'm just telling you,
review,
as somebody that just came through this, every time you push somebody back out there and make them hire somebody, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. So we
May I
should
say
be
something?
cautious about when we do that. Because I can't drive around town and look at everybody in a buffer zone and just say, prove me wrong, right? I can go on Mass Mapper and I can start going through this whole town and I can tell someone, you move this, go hire a scientist for $10,000 and tell me I'm wrong. That's overstepping our bounds. That's not what this board is here for. This board is not here to be overreaching on the residents like that. That's.
May I
it really
say
gets on my crop.
something?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. When I joined conservation and I went through the MACC training, they tell you what the board is responsible for. We are responsible for protecting the interests of the state law. And the burden of proof is on the applicant or the owner of the property if there is a problem in question. And I think as you go through the MACC training, you'll get to understand we're not out to screw anybody or charge them double. We are protecting the interests of the act, the state law, the 8 interests. That's all we do. That's all we do.
But Gene, is that when somebody is gonna do work that they fall within the buffer? Or is that just when random anonymous complaints drive around town and just decide they're gonna pull someone in front of this board?
I mean, if somebody's going around making anonymous complaints, it's our responsibility to check it out. If there's
Then why are 3
any-
tree companies in front of this board right now? Where did those come from, those complaints?
One conservation commission was driving by and made the complaint.
What conservation commissioner? Did they look at other properties or just all the tree companies in
He
town?
just drove by and saw
He was
it.
driving down 139 and looked
He and you
over.
about wetlands.
I'm sorry?
You about wetlands. If I look at your house, it looks like you put in a little koi pond or something.
I don't, that's not my house.
Okay, I don't want to get it into personal things right now. The Conservation Commission has enforcement powers.
But the police
That's
department
part-
has enforcement powers.
Yes.
You can't just go around wielding them all over the place.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
If we get a complaint, we have to check it out.
Then we gotta know where the complaint's coming from. If somebody's not gonna march in here and tell us why they're complaining, and we're just gonna get anonymous complaints because somebody's fluffing around driving around town and picking on people they don't like tree companies, then we should not be entertaining any anonymous complaints then. That would be my position as a board member on this board.
I completely disagree with that.
I bet.
I think that, I don't understand what that, what's wrong
Because
with-
somebody can just go around town and start telling people to drop thousands of dollars on an engineer because they feel that they violated the wetlands.
Well, we would, if
They can at
somebody's,
least put their name on it and come up, because there's something going on fishy that every tree company in town is up in front of this board on an enforcement order. That's pretty random.
I don't think anybody on this commission even knows anybody at these tree companies.
I'm sure they don't,
And
but they
they've been
don't like trees
different.
being cut down.
I am not going to say to a member of the public, you cannot submit a complaint anonymously. We would get the complaint, we
Well,
would
then,
look
if
on
it's a complaint,
Snapper.
the burden of proof is on us then. We need to prove to that person.
No. If you go onto the website and read the enforcement manual, we are following everything to the letter that DEP requires.
We didn't just follow with them.
We do, everything that we do is exactly
wrong, Lynn.
what, well, okay, read the enforcement manual. This is what DEP has us do.
Yeah, but we have, as a board, we all
As-
have opinions here, and I can be one to say, when people just go around throwing taxpayers here in front of us, and we're just gonna force them to spend more money to prove us wrong, I have a real problem with that as a resident of this town and a taxpayer. I have a
Okay.
real problem with that, and if I'm in the minority right now, and that's fine, but every time that happens, I'm gonna speak up, every single time.
And you definitely can.
Okay.
It's just that this is the way the law works, and
Well,
this
it's
is
not,
the way that.
we're the board to, there's some, if we're just going by the law, there's a lot of things we've done wrong that I won't say, but it's, there's some room here for opinion.
Okay, if you look at the enforcement manual from DEP, it outlines everything that we are supposed to do, and that is what we do.
So it says in there that anonymous complaints, we cannot provide, we
complaint.
cannot make the person come tell us that, who's complaining?
Why would we care about who it was?
Because, Lynn, if we have someone driving around that doesn't like tree companies in town, okay? Let's say they decide they don't like IT companies, that's what I do for a living. Let's say they don't like the way, how I have a bad attitude right now and I have an open order of conditions in front of you guys. You can't just go at people and make them spend money like that. You can't, anonymous complaints, there's a lot of enforcement orders in here that are anonymous complaints.
They're not anonymous
It'd be okay if they were
necessarily to
anonymous
us.
if we had to prove it, but we have anonymous complaints and then we put the burden of proof on the taxpayer.
Let
That
me
is
just say-
unjust.
Let me just say, Chris.
Yep.
I know the name of all the people who complain. They're not
Okay.
anonymous to us,
They're anonymous to me, Lynn.
but they're going to be anonymous to other people.
They're anonymous to me.
Because when people make a complaint, they have the right to be anonymous.
Okay.
If that's their request. I don't want to get into a situation where somebody's like, well, I hate this person.
How do you know that's not
I'm going to go
happening?
get them or something like
Yeah,
that.
I have to agree to some extent with Chris on this, because we've had more enforcement orders than I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the whole agenda is enforcement orders. And I understand, we are the police of the wetlands, I get that. But I understand what he's saying. It kind of seems like there's somebody out there that just doesn't like some people, and we're getting complaints on it.
It's
And if you did do mass mapper for everything in town, you're gonna find complaints everywhere.
I can tell you,
everywhere.
it's whoever's making complaint, it is individual, they're different people. It can be a member of the commission driving by and seeing something, it could be a neighbor of somebody. There's no we're gonna go after these
Okay,
people.
in this town though, right? I understand there's a Mass DEP law,
Yeah.
right? That's fine, we're gonna stick by that. But we also, as a town, as a board, have a right to do what we want, correct? I.e. the excessive requirements we have in this town that cost thousands of dollars. So at the same time, we can also say that in this town, an anonymous complaint cannot put the burden of proof on the person that was complained about. Because anybody can drive around, Lynn, and go, anyone in the buffer zone and complain about them and cost them $10,000 in engineering. That is not right. If somebody wants to give an anonymous complaint, they can remain anonymous, but that burden of proof should now be on us. We can hire a scientist to go out there and prove them wrong, and then we can recoup that fund. But to just go around and tell people, spend $10,000 to prove me wrong, how unjust is it? How would you feel if that happened to you? Like it happened, do you know what that feels like when you were just strong-armed into having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars? You can't do that to people. We, as a board, have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of this town, not to the animals in the wetlands as much as the taxpayers of this town. They have just as much of a right to their freedom as the beavers do.
Chris, we have to follow the law.
Then, good, we are following the law.
And we're following the law to a T. We cannot, if we have a
we've
complaint.
added to that law.
Let's say somebody puts in a complaint. They
Yep.
see something on Mass Mapper. We go on Mass Mapper and we go, oh yeah, there's something going on. We look to see, was there ever an NOI? Oh, there was. Okay. Oh, and look, they're doing exactly what they want. Done. It's fine. Or,
So that's
they
on
did-
us to prove, which is fine. That I'm
We
okay
do.
with.
The first thing we do is we go through, we look at Mass Mapper, it looks like something, but then the next question is, did they already get approval for this? If they did, then we don't have to worry about it, right?
Okay.
If they're doing work and they had an NOI, but they decided, we're gonna just continue on, then that's where we have to go, hey, you guys, you did a delineation and you were
Absolutely.
only supposed
That's
to do
a
that.
completely different
Right,
situation.
and
I
this
agree with
guy,
that.
well, this is actually the situation here. They had an NOI, and they were supposed to build something over here, but instead they filled in about 3 acres.
Who's this? Who are we talking about?
This is 900 Adams Street,
Okay.
okay? So in this situation,
Well, we can show that he did that then.
Right.
That would be us
Right.
proving that he did something.
And we
And now the
also
question
never
is
told
how
him to hire an
extensive-
attorney. We
Of
said you
course
need
can
to,
hire an attorney.
we didn't say you had to hire a
we never said hire an attorney.
I
We
understand
said get a wetland scientist, do a delineation and test pits so we can find out where it actually is.
And he said, okay.
He took it upon himself to hire an attorney and everything else that he hired.
Yep.
For us to hire a peer mediator could be doing him a favor potentially, because if we disagree with the findings of his wetland scientist when it comes back, the cost is gonna be much higher.
Whatever you spend's gonna be double.
Exactly. So for us to send a peer mediator out to oversee it for one day was $2,500.
Yep.
For us to send a peer mediator out to do test pits again, we're looking
Another
at
10, 20 grand.
10, 15 grand. So in hindsight, the wetland scientist he's using, no information is available about him. So
Okay.
it doesn't give you the best feeling that you can't find any records about him or anything. There was thought put into it, but we're gonna go with it the best we can because they're adamant on it. And if it comes back, that's where it is. We're not jumping to hire people. And there's a lot of complaints that come in that never make it to a meeting because they're rectified before they get to this point.
Who makes that decision though?
Our conservation officer, he goes out and sees that it isn't an actual conservation issue.
Okay.
And we've had that before. Somebody will say they're cutting
lot of
the
them are getting through,
wetlands, and somebody says, oh, they're, filling in wetlands, and you go down and it's like, oh, I was just cutting some trees or some branches that had died. Like that's happened, right? So we just have to we're very careful about what we're doing, but when the evidence says, yes, it's not just the aerial images, it's doing the site walks, looking in our files, trying to see something, talking to the people. And they're not anonymous, but I'm not going to make their names known to the public.
Which is fine, I get that, you want to protect them, that's fine, and I'm trying to protect the
Right,
accused.
but
That's where we're
our goal
having a
here is
disconnect.
not necessarily if somebody has violated the Wetlands Protection Act, we are the first line of defense. If we don't do anything, then somebody could go, fine, you're not gonna do it, I'll go to DEP.
Yeah.
And then DEP will say, why didn't you take care of this? Go take care of this. Because they defer to us.
Mhm.
We're basically working in a way for them, for DEP.
And the tax base.
Yes.
Yes, the taxpayers, we're
Okay.
also supposed to be protecting
DEP's
the
pretty well
wetlands.
funded, they take care of themselves pretty well.
I will send everybody a copy of the enforcement manual, so you can see what.
It's not an argument about the enforcement orders, it's where they're coming from, and
I
I
understand.
have a real problem with making people spend money to prove us wrong. I have a real issue with that. If they're going and doing a project and they pulled NOI, fine. They're gonna change around, they're within the buffer zone, it's on them to have somebody do it right, just like I'm doing it. But just to go around and start going at people and saying, you have to prove us wrong is just, I mean, with the last lady, the reason I voted that way is because there's clear proof that within the last 2 years that they've changed. You can look on Mass Mapper, that's clear as day. They made a change. I agree. That's why I voted with you guys.
Right.
But I'm just saying, just as an example, I mean, that's an extreme one, because I think they are in violation and need to clean it up.
And it was night and day. When we first made contact, they were all willing to work with
Let's not
us.
talk about that one right now. They're not in front of us.
Okay.
Just, and they are listening, so.
Yep.
So
Okay,
let's.
I said my piece. We're not doing a peer review on that
So
one?
let's move on
What's the next
to,
order of business?
So what about 900, Adam? Is anyone going out there tomorrow to watch that, or?
I'm not,
I'm in Taunton tomorrow.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
yeah.
So we'll wait and see what they present us.
yeah, they're gonna present a plan and
Okay,
see what we feel about it, how the comfort is, and go from there.
all right.
Okay, next up, discussion and vote on enforcement order for 75 Nile Street. I don't see anybody here for that. Nick, do you wanna take it over?
Yeah,
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? I'm just stepping away because I live on Nile Street.
Okay, thank you, Jean.
75 Niles, homeowner called me, put a tree he was looking to take down. Went out there, took a look, tree's very close to a stream on the neighboring property. The homeowner then, before hearing from me, which, to tell him no, started excavating to put in, looks like a one-car parking spot in front of the tree. Called him. I got 3 different calls that morning about the excavation happening. Went out there, saw that it was happening, called him. At the time, nobody was there working. Said, you gotta stop. You didn't get permission to do it. Stop. File if you wanna do it. The next day, they resumed working. Went out there, landscapers are out there continuing to dig. Told them they need to stop. They told me the homeowner told me it was okay. I told them absolutely not, needs to stop immediately. Sent the enforcement order, I sent the enforcement order over to 75 Niles, spoke to the landscaper, who said that he would be here tonight. He's not apparently. That's where it's at.
So have they stopped at this point?
I'm not sure. I haven't been by there in the past few days.
Speaking as a resident, I've been housebound with an injury over these last couple of nice days. I've not heard any machinery, and that's how I heard it the first time. So I don't think anything is going on. My husband, when he comes home from work, comes up the street that way, so if it was something, he would have said something to me. Speaking as a resident.
Thank Eugene?
So the enforcement order drafted as an emergency one, Lynn signed it, would need to be ratified at this meeting to become full. Has add sedimentation, erosion controls between the resource area and the disturbed area, and contact the Conservation Commission to inspect by May 15th. And then file a restoration plan by June 17th. Plan to be presented at the June 24 meeting to return disturbed area to its original state by July 31st.
Okay, so we need to get a motion to ratify.
If he were to file RDA, or what's he doing, just a parking?
Parking spot, it's what it looks like.
He's parking, but it's in the riverfront. He's about 30 feet from riverfront. So he can't build it. Unless he wants to do a 2-to-1 replication closer to the stream or 1-to-1 restoration close to the stream. And he's...
Was he gonna pave it or just gravel, or, do you know?
I don't know.
So that's state law.
State law says he cannot do a gravel, he can't park a car
He cannot
there.
do any, because it's riverfront, any work unless you are going to restore or 2-to-1 replicate, preferably closer to riverfront.
Well, the problem I have with this is not so much he wants to park a car there, is that they continued working and you told them to stop.
Have we heard from homeowners, or have you? Or they
Not since the
corresponded?
enforcement order. I mean, if he was to file something, I would, recommend putting the enforcement order on pause while that file went through, one way or the
Even
other.
if he files, we can't approve it.
But it
Unless
should be heard and
Yeah,
can be,
absolutely, it will be heard, but DEP has been pretty clear that when you've done an enforcement order, you don't then do an after the fact NOI or RDA, like, let me do this. The only remedy is restoration. And with riverfront, it becomes even more of a challenge for the person because they're not supposed to do anything. That this whole, half of his property is within riverfront.
Can you pull it up?
Sure. So, 75. Okay, so it's right there. You can see the stream right here, the perennial stream, goes right through 95 miles. I think this is the area he wanted to build that. If you look, it's really hard to tell, but this is from.
Yeah, that's the tree he was,
30 Is it from the tree?
that tree is what he was talking about, and then he was excavating from the street to that tree, pretty much.
And this is, draw a straight line. This whole area here is riverfront.
Was this property brought before us, on
Next
a different
door.
issue?
This
Oh,
is
so-
the one
okay, I
next
knew- I
door.
thought
The house on the
that's
left or the right?
The right.
Where are they putting the driveway?
Lynn, you want to kind of put the cursor where the driveway,
Right here?
right around there, yeah.
Yeah.
Right up against that fence to that tree.
So he called you on the tree to the right of the driveway.
He called to ask about the tree. He mentioned the plan to do the gravel driveway. Before I responded to him, he started excavating, called him, told him, you gotta stop. It pretty much was, oh, I told you I was doing. I said, yeah, and I said I'd go out and talk to you about it. You just started. At that time, asked me, well, what happens if I just do it? And I informed him it would be an enforcement order. Then the next day, work continued, the landscapers were there, said the homeowner told them they could do it, that they had permission. They packed up for that day. I haven't been back there, in the few days since. But I mean, I haven't gotten any calls from anyone. I got 3 calls that morning. Like, I get in, like 7:45, I had 3 calls before 8:30 when town hall opened, from 3 different people. It was quickly noticed. So I, based off that, I assume it has stopped, because I can't imagine all of them lost interest in it.
Yeah. Okay, so can I get a motion for ratification of the enforcement order?
I make a motion to ratify the enforcement order.
For 75?
75 Niles Street?
Yes. Okay. All right, a roll call, but no, Jean has recused herself. All right, so I got my second. We'll still do a roll call. Alex?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
AJ?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. All right. Ratified. Next is enforcement order for 267 North Quincy Street. Have you heard anything?
Heard nothing from them.
Nothing? Okay.
So I sent you and Nick all the text correspondence I had with him, starting last year, just so the rest of you understand. This is that huge lot up on North Quincy Street where they still have cars, trucks, trailers, everything. He had agreed to do some test pits because DEP has said that he is going to wetlands. So he had agreed to do it last fall, and I don't know the exact date, but I happened to drive through there one day and saw him, and we were talking. He said, yeah, I'll do the, Lynn wanted 3 test pits, I think, 3 areas. He agreed to do that. I said, that's great, let me know when. He called me a little while later, or texted me and said I think it was in a text because it's mentioned Weston and Sampson, that he couldn't get it done by November 15th, so would have to wait until the spring. And I said, okay, follow that up in writing, so we have it in writing that Weston and Sampson can't do it until the spring. Never heard from him again. I've reached out several times, just haven't heard from him. So, I don't know what you want to do.
Nick, you sent him a letter, right?
I don't have contact info for him.
Yeah, Nick had asked me the other day.
Alex reached out to him again
And,
and joined me in on it.
What I said to him was, hi Vic, I've texted you several times with no response. You were on the agenda for the Conservation Commission meeting on Tuesday night, May 13th at 6:30. I strongly suggest you attend. I have included the conservation agent in this group text. No response.
Okay. Well, we already have an enforcement order on him. He's not showing up. Then take it to town council.
Yeah. And town council is very familiar with this from the selectmen and other issues that have been.
This has been kind of that long ago, issue for quite a time.
Yeah.
So let them handle it from here.
I had a conversation with her about this last year as well, so, okay. All right, building permit site visits, we have 54 Adams Street, which is actually part of a complaint as well.
Yeah, I have not had a chance to get out there. Schedule's been pretty full and without any, I don't believe there's any active work happening there, so.
Where is 54 Adams?
Kind of right where the road hooks, right after you get off
Oh, okay.
Washington.
So Wendy Happel's number 40. So Right between that and Kevin Donovan's house?
Yeah, it's the house kind of set back.
Okay. What's the issue there?
I think there's some,
I can enlighten everybody on that. I've been volunteering at the town hall prior to my injury, and, I was getting ready to leave one day when this woman had stopped in to see Nancy Hurst, and Liz Shea was there. She said, I need to speak to someone in conservation, who would I contact? And it was the end of the day, and I said, Nick Jenks, but Liz pointed at me and said, she's on conservation, and I said, how can I help you? So she proceeded to tell, she lives in the condos on, is it Cleverly or Cleverly? Cleverly Circle?
Cleverly Street.
Yeah. Anyway, she's seen, animal sheds built by the river. I told her that she needs to contact Nick or write a letter, and, we can take it from there. And she was kind of nervous, because she's like, I don't want to have any retaliation, I don't want to have any problems. And I'm like, well, it's not a problem, you've got a question, you'll bring it to us, and somebody will look at it. And that's how it came to be. So, I saw her the next time I was at the town hall, and I told her, I said, I typed it up on your behalf, and I sent it over to Nick. And I can get her name from Liz Shea and Nancy. So that's how it came to be.
So that was chickens and goats by the stream?
Yeah.
And then ATVs?
Yeah, she said, mention that, ATVs out back. I did. So, if you want to pull that property up, I guess you can look at it too. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking that up. Oh, no, sorry. I was looking up, like, if it's your own property and you ride ATV through the wetland, I think you can do that unless there's a sign from the director of DEP or the director of some other state agency that says, don't drive ATV through here or something like that. So in that respect.
We might need to put a kibosh on that for another piece of property very quickly.
State park?
No. Another piece of property that's all wetlands.
But does it have a?
Properties on the agenda.
Yeah. We can talk, yeah.
No, if there's something that allows for ATV use in wetlands on your own property.
I think you can use it on your own property based on what I was looking up. Which seems, I know, strange, but for what I saw, it was that you could do it unless there was a sign there from the director of DEP or the director of some other state agency saying you couldn't. So if there's a sign up there that says you can't, no ATVs or something, and it's your property, then you can do it.
Gotcha.
Presumably, they're not like cutting down tons and tons of trees and filling and otherwise altering the wetlands. But I don't know, because I haven't been on the site to see what's happened. If there's extensive alteration, then yeah, that would be an issue. But what part of their property they're driving it on, or when people say it's in the wetlands, is it really in the wetlands or is it somewhere else? We don't know. We'd have to go out and see. But is a stream perennial? Jean, do you know?
Yeah, that's the Schutter River that goes down to the mine.
Okay.
Because of Beaverburg, right?
Yeah, that's the town well river there.
Yep.
So do we want to set up a site walk? Contact them?
Yeah, I can check, see if if I have any kind of contact info, otherwise it'll be, leave my card at the door.
Okay.
Usually that gets a phone call.
Okay. And then we can have a couple people go out if we can do a site walk.
Yeah.
What do they want to build there?
No, it's just a complaint.
Oh, I thought it said building permit and there was a complaint.
Oh, well.
Slash site visit.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It should have been actually in complaints, but I just said, put it in the site visit section.
The hope was I'd get there for a site visit, but it didn't end up
Yeah, it
happening
didn't
this week.
happen. So I figured if he didn't have time, then we could just talk about it here. So it's all good. Okay, and then correspondence, I put it in gave everyone a copy. I think, Jean, I sent this to you about the joint meeting for open space and recreation plan. So if you, I think most of you guys were here when Rhiannon Dugan came to talk about the open space plan, and what she would like to do is this Thursday from 6 to 7, they want to review the draft goals for the open space and recreation plan, so she'd like to have 1 or 3 members from conservation attend. So I don't know if anybody's interested in going.
When was that, Lynn?
Sorry?
What was the date?
This
Oh, this
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, from 6 to 7-ish. I would say longer, I would say definitely.
I can't
past.
do it Thursday night.
Yeah. So, you can see there's a very nice spreadsheet they have here that they put together with all the information that they took from us and from open space and, community preservation, for different ideas that they'd like to do for the 10-year plan. So if anybody's interested, just let me know, and I can contact her and let her know who will attend.
In addition to that too, I think she's just looking to hear, so if you can attend and have any comments, concerns, suggestions, I'm sure she'll be happy to get it.
Yeah.
So if we had like a question or like a suggestion on like Griffin's Farm, we could email her or give it to you or Lynn?
Yeah, I think
You could
our
pass
current
it on.
goal is to kind of just get as much
Read it over
information
a little bit.
in before they start really digging into the plan, so they don't go in the wrong direction. So,
Okay, yeah, so just let me know so we don't have like 5 people showing up from conservation.
Do we have enough to go? Because I might be able to.
Well, Alex can't go. Jean, I don't think you can go, right? With your knee?
I doubt it.
Okay, so that just leaves 4 of us.
Oh, you got 4,
Well, no, that means that there's 4 left
Oh,
of
just-
the commission who could potentially go. So it's a matter of deciding.
Depends if I get stuck in something at work or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta wait and see if I get right-of-way orders.
I'm a game time decision.
So I'm kind of on the fence right now about it. I'm not sure if I can get childcare. John, how about you?
If soccer permits, and I know I have double practice, what was the time you said?
6 o'clock.
I might be, I'd have to double look, because I know I have one at 6 and I have one at 8.
Okay.
Lynn,
See if we can split it up.
Yes.
would there be ability to zoom in?
I can ask.
There's another possibility.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will ask her about that.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, let me know. And that, I think,
Minutes.
Yep.
the minutes, thank you.
So Jean, myself, and Lynn are the only 3 that can vote on these.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve both 4/8 and 4/30/24
Okay.
minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, I gotta do. Jean?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, good.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing.
We got Crabtree,
There's, this just came in actually.
just to sort of.
I'll pass it around. It's about Route 139,
Oh, the,
Old Randolph.
any wetland issues there.
No,
anyway.
it says that there's no wetlands
Yeah.
issues, but if you have questions to who to contact about it. Yeah, with that, we just need to do the,
You want me to scan that, Lynn, and just shoot it to everyone?
that one? Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Okay, so order of conditions
My
or,
notebook today, so I don't have a copy.
do you have copies of the,
Yeah.
Nothing
That's
to
just,
worry
it's got
about.
no conservation issues to it, that's just,
That's a DOT part.
down the road, they're gonna be doing lights at, Chestnut, 139 and Old Randolph.
Oh, good.
Doing the roundabout,
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question.
That is, when's the roundabout, the end of this year?
I think that's the hope, yeah.
That other one, I think.
That's the
is either
danger, that's what,
27 or
that's,
29.
yeah, that's
Wanna
the
take one
most
and pass it
dangerous
down?
section.
Yeah.
This seems like it's gonna be constant danger.
This is kind of the standard.
Okay.
Kind of go through
Yeah, I
and
haven't been through one of these
take off
yet, so-
stuff that isn't relevant, and then at the end add if there's anything in particular looking at.
I've got mine already. Okay,
So we typically go with,
I'll start, yeah, A1. A2,
What's the number we want in A1?
erosion and sedimentation controls.
yeah, but,
The work line.
Oh, okay, 25? From the wetlands edges? Huh?
25, so it goes in the 5 feet that they're moving. Should work for 'em.
yeah,
You think, okay.
yeah, because.
If they
I'm
need-
saying don't work within the 25.
That's the limit, don't do anything
I thought you were
beyond
saying
that line.
where, got it.
Yeah, so they're kind of right at that, but they're moving 5
Sorry, I
feet in,
printed
so-
out and I'd already written the 25 in it. So now
that's
I
why you didn't think it was a
remember.
question.
I forgot there's a line to write it in, sorry about that. All right, so A1, 25, A2, A3, A4, there's no dewatering, right? For pools or dewatering?
Well, there could be.
Yeah,
There could
if they
be.
hit water well excavating, they have to pump it dry to work.
Okay, so A5,
Yeah.
A6. Let's see, it's nothing.
That's not changing,
B6.
yeah.
Don't need anything for C. No, no, nothing for D, nothing for E, nothing for F. G1, I actually want to add a pre-construction meeting to that as well. But I'll put that in a separate thing.
It can be in special conditions.
Yeah, yeah. G2. G3,
Four.
4, 5, 25 again?
Yeah.
Okay. 6, well, equipment, a minimum of 50 feet. They may be able to do that?
No.
So can we change that to 25
For servicing the equipment?
for
Oh,
G6?
for servicing, no, they can do 50 feet.
Oh,
for
servicing.
Yeah, they should be able
Because
to-
then it says equipment must be a minimum of 50,
But,
which
Well-
made it seem like any
Well-
equipment.
Fueling the equipment falls under that.
yeah,
Yeah, the,
There's no way they could obtain that on the site, I would think.
I mean, I always look at that as equipment storage. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
how,
yeah.
maybe we should update that.
We have to,
I can
Really
update it, so
doesn't-
change G6 to refer to equipment storage.
Yeah, I don't think it applies so much to Crabtree, but like other facilities when they're bringing in fuel trucks and fueling
Yeah.
equipment, that should probably become a condition. Because DEP does outline some of that.
okay. Cool. G7,
Definitely G7.
driveway grading, H1,
H2.
H2, that's subdivision, so no for H3,
H4.
H4, 5, 6. I want to move G to where it's a different place, but that's another day. So H6, A, B.
Oh, no, well, we don't
All
need
pipe
A.
culvert, oh wait, okay,
We're not
no.
doing it.
B, location of other drainage. Limits of clearing, C. Okay, so C, D, there's no riprap.
Well, would that fall into like, if there is any outputs, I don't know,
The riprap one?
no, disregard that comment.
Okay. F and G. H7, C. H8, H9. Let's see. I1, I2, A, B. Are they doing any trees?
No.
Okay.
No replication.
C though, because stockpiling of erosive materials, okay. No replication, so we don't have to worry about D.
Wait a second.
Or E.
C?
Yeah, well, trees adjacent, no stockpiling of erosive materials may occur within 50 feet.
That's gonna be pretty impossible if the whole pool is within 50 feet.
Right, so.
Yeah, but that says during clearing operations, so they're not clearing any trees.
It's worded, because when I read it, I see it as during clearing operations, and then saying no stockpiling. It should be separate.
That should be two separate lines, I would think.
I can also take the clearing operations out of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so yeah, so take that out for C. There's no replication plan, so we don't need D. Road, no E. Special conditions.
Oh, the only special condition should be, site.
Yeah.
Pre-construction and signage.
And the signage, yeah.
What was this, the first one?
Pre-construction.
Oh, pre-construction meeting.
Yeah, I think that's in, I2B. I guess it doesn't say that we, oh yeah, no, the commission should be given at least 40 hours notice prior to construction, the control measures can be checked. Isn't I2B?
I2B. G1.
I think we should reword that.
Okay.
That's, yeah, just say, we could have it,
I mean, having it twice doesn't change anything, so.
because there's a new wetland line, what I would suggest, and this was one that came from MACC, was have the wetland line approved by this order of conditions is based on a delineation of bordering vegetated wetlands approved in an order of condition issued May 13th, 2025 in DEP file number, whatever that's going to be, which expires on May 13th, 2028. The approval of delineation of the bordering vegetated wetlands for this order of conditions is accepted as sufficient information for this order of conditions only and does not extend the approval of the resource area delineation beyond May 13th, 2028. Basically just saying this delineation is good for 3 years. I have any and all changes to the approved plans must be made in writing. Wetland signs, 4x4 pressure treated wooden posts, the 25-foot do not disturb, pre-construction meeting, and that's all I have. Anybody have anything else that we should add?
Doesn't DEP say that wetlands delineation is 3 years anyway?
Yeah, but you might have a situation where somebody will say, oh, yeah, I had this, but we're gonna go with that old wetlands delineation.
On the, sorry, you guys.
They're only good for 3 years.
On the signs, I thought they were showing where they were gonna put them. 'Cause I think the 25 puts it in the middle of the yard, no?
No, if you look at the wetland boundary, you can see the flagging.
Yeah, it's where they put the flags.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
along the
We're gonna
wetland
do it
line.
along the wetland, yeah, we're not putting it in the middle of the yard.
No.
Cool.
Okay, anything else you guys can think of for a special condition?
I think one that to remain in perpetuity, never to backwash into the wetland. I know the filter they're proposing now doesn't backwash, but things change over time.
Doesn't mean future.
What was that other one we just discovered on that other site, a sump?
That was a sump underneath the pool liner.
I don't know if that's like a double pool basin because the ground's wet or.
My understanding of what the other one was is it's underneath the liner and capturing groundwater and taking it out from underneath as the groundwater constantly pushes the liner up, the pump constantly moves the groundwater, which then I'm sure goes right back in and comes right back up, but it's just a battle they take.
Okay, then.
If you want
I
one to
will
keep.
all over mine, yes.
No,
That's-
feel free.
Is that all right if I keep it?
And that way you'll kind of have one to always
Yeah, if
reference.
that's all right.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Wait, Jane? Alex? Alex?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
AJ?
Aye.
Chris?
No, I want to
Unanimous?
talk more.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
The,